Yeah. Yeah. Mary was 10 years old. She was from Dorset. Her hair, her hair,
Her hair.
her hair was short and blonde. Her eyes were brown. She had a cat and a dog. Their names were Pat and Fluffy.
Fluffy.
Pat the dog had a small house in the garden. Mary's cat, Fluffy, was 3 years old. Mary's mother was Jane. She was a teacher. She was 36 years old. Her husband was Nick. He was 38. He was a bus driver. His hair, otra vez,
His hair
was brown and his eyes were blue. Jane's hair was blonde and her eyes were brown. Jane had a friend. Her name was Laura. Ned had a horse. His name was Lightning.
Light night.
Nick's friends were bus drivers too. They were Tom, Charles and John. Jane and Nick had 3 children, Mary, Sean and Peter. Sean was 6 and Peter was 12 years old. They were students. Sean's hair was blonde. Peter's hair was brown. Their eyes were blue. Peter's pet was a hamster. Its name was Timmy. She was very small. Sean had a goldfish. Its name was Goldie. Peter and Sean had 4 friends. Peter's friends were James and Doug. Brian and Adam were Sean's friends. Mary's friends were Maggie and April.
Okay, great. So I'm gonna listen again. Please, you are going to put attention on the pronunciation of each word. Yes. And si usted de pronto se le cruza una palabra que dice, yo pronuncié esto así y era así, póngale arribita cómo usted le pronuncia para que practique. Yes. So first one, the letters. Por lo general la A no suena tan A como en nuestro idioma. Es más como You say Mary. Yes, Mary was 10 years old. She was from Dorset. Her hair was short and blonde. Her eyes were brown. She had a cat and a dog. Their names were Pat and Fluffy. Pat, the dog, had a small house in the garden. Mary's cat, Fluffy, was 3 years old. Mary's mother was Jane. She was a teacher. She was 36 years old. Her husband was Nick. He was 38. He was a bus driver. His hair was brown and his eyes were blue. Jane's hair was blonde and her eyes were brown. Jane had a friend. Her name was Laura. Nick had a horse. Its name was Lightning. Nick's friends were bus drivers too. They were Tom, Charles, and John. Jane and Nick had 3 children, Mary, Sean, and Peter. Sean was 6 and Peter was 12 years old. They were students. Sean's hair was blonde. Peter's hair was brown. Their eyes were blue. Peter's pet was the hamster. Its name was Tinny. She was very small. Sean had a goldfish. Its name was Goldie. Peter and Sean had 4 friends. Peter's friends were James and Doug. Brian and Adam were Sean's friends. Mary's friends were Maggie and April. Yes? Okay, try to read it again. Va a intentar leer nuevamente con las correcciones que usted hizo que escuchó. Yes? So, las mismas partes que tenían compartidas.
Mary was 10 years old. She was from Dorset. Her hair was short and blonde. Her eyes, no, sí, her eyes were brown. She had a cat and dog. Their names were Pat and Fluffy. Pat the dog had a small house in the garden. Mary cat Fluffy was 3 years old. Mary's mother was Jane. She was a teacher. She was 36 years old. Her husband was 9. He was 38. He was a bike driver. His hair was brown and his eyes were blue. Jane's hair was blonde and her eyes were brown. Jane had a friend. ¿Hasta dónde era? Es que estoy leyendo desde mis notas. Yeah. James had a friend. Her name was Laura. Nye had a horse. His name is Lainey.
Yes, very good. Thank you. So, Andres?
Nick's friends were bus drivers. 2. They were Tom, Charles, and John. Jane and Nick had 3 children, Mary, Sean, and Peter. Sean was 6 and Peter was 12 years old. They were students. Sean's hair was blonde. Peter's hair was brown. Their eyes were blue. Peter's pet was a hamster. Its name was Tinny. She was very small. Sean had a goldfish. Its name was Goldie. Peter and Sean had 4 friends. Peter's friends were James and Doug. Brian and Adam were Sean's friends. Mary's friends were Maggie and April.
Great, thank you. Now we have here an activity about your understanding, your reading understanding, yes? For example, you are going to take 5 minutes in this activity. Se va a tardar 5 minutos en esta actividad. Ya leímos 2 veces. Yes. So, is there any word that you didn't know? ¿Alguna palabra que usted no entiende de la lectura?
Blonde es rubio, ¿verdad?
Ajá, blonde means rubio. There is another word.
La parte que dice had a goldfish.
Goldfish es un pez dorado. No more? Ok, so en this activity usted tiene un cuadrito aquí, el cual va a llenar con la información que vimos anteriormente. Por ejemplo, vamos a hacer la primera, ¿ya? Dice Mary. Name, Mary. Age, ¿qué es age?
Edad.
Ajá, yes. So what is her
10
age?
years old.
10 years old. So you have to write 10. Hair,
Blonde.
blonde. Eyes,
Brown.
brown. Mhm. Job,
Student.
yeah, good. Friends,
Maggie and April.
yes, very good. Maggie and April. Pets,
Cat and dog.
yes. Cat and dog. Okay, actually it's a cat and a dog. Pet's name,
Fat and fluffy.
Fat and Fluffy, Yes, so, en el siguiente cuadro usted tiene solamente la edad. Tiene que ver quién tenía esta edad. ¿Quién era?
Nick.
Nick. Yes, y continúe con la información. Tiene 5 minutos. Ok, continue.
El hair brown y is blue.
Which of them do you have complete? Andrés,
What?
which of them you have completed? ¿Cuál tiene completo?
Ah, las otras dos.
Ya.
Eso todavía
Okay, who has a goldfish?
Jane tiene
sí.
los ojos brown, no blue.
Okay, let's try with the next one. Yes, who has a goldfish? ¿Quién tiene un goldfish?
Sin.
Okay, continue, Sean. Age?
Age 6, hair blonde, age blue, job student, friends Brian and Adam, pets goldfish y pet name
Goldfish. Yes,
But-
Okay, Rita, the last one, please.
¿De Jane o de Peter?
The last one. Who's the last one? This. Who has a brown hair?
Right, okay. Peter.
Mhm.
Name Peter. Age 12. Hair brown. Age blue. Hot jobs students. Friends. John, ya se me fue el nombre. James, ¿cómo es James?
James.
James. James and dog. Pets, hamsters, pet names, Tinny.
Tinny. Okay, good. Yes. Okay, as homework, you are going to complete these ones. Answer these questions, guess the answer, and this is your homework for Monday. Yes, do you remember? You have to practice this one. La tarea consiste en responder las preguntas que es sobre la misma lectura. ¿Sí? Y la siguiente actividad es, con estas pistas que están aquí, usted escoge la respuesta correcta. La letter D es la actividad que les dije que quedamos para el día lunes, que es speaking, hablado, ¿no?
En teacher, por ejemplo, para responder que dice, por ejemplo, Google's Nick, ponemos is my father, my father.
No, because it's not your father. You say Nick is, for example, Jane's husband. Era el esposo de Jane, creo. Pero yo respondo, he was Jane's husband. Él era el esposo de Jane.
Ya.
Ya, igual, por ejemplo, cuando dice, ¿qué color eran sus ojos? Usted tiene que responder, sus ojos eran dependiendo de quién son los ojos, ¿no? Si es de ella, her, y si es de él, his. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So, Andrés, don't you have any question?
Sí, o sea, siempre le respondemos en pasado.
Claro,
En era.
ajá, porque las preguntas le está diciendo quién era, cómo era, entonces usted responde también en pasado. Yes, okay.